Hi there, this is Chris from Elite Currency. Today's video, of course, taking a look at the Forex market analysis and potential trade setups. Let's start right now. So I will be short on the euro dollar and pound dollar because we have a specific video on both of them with detailed information, but basically looking for a potential bounce at the 23.6 fib on the euro dollar daily chart here, looking for a break basically above 118 for a move up to 119. Which is a new decision zone for either a bounce or a break. Take a look at candlestick patterns to see how price will respond at 118 and at 119. If price does break below 117, there could be a breakout towards 116 and later on towards 115, which could be again a bouncing spot because it's the 38.2 fib. So that's basically the current map on the euro dollar. You can pause it if you like. The pound dollar, basically pretty much the same. I don't have the 50 fib on the chart at the moment. Let me add that very quickly here. You can see basically, the reaction to this 50 fib could cause price to make a bounce first up to 132, 133, 133.50, which is the resistance trend line, and these bottoms in here. But if it breaks above that, there could be a 4-hour swing or even long-term potential breakout to the upside to first of all retest this resistance and then perhaps later on move to the minus 272 target at around 139. Of course, 137.50 is a round level as well. If we zoom in, you can see that price would first need to break above this triangle to make this upside here possible, and then if it breaks above that, there could be another breakout. If it does break below 132 and this triangle, there could be a breakout to the downside. Then that target is the 61.8 fib at 131. So that's a bearish breakout right there. This is a small bullish breakout, and this is the bigger bullish breakout. That's what could happen on the pound. But let's move over to the dollar yen. Dollar yen, very choppy up in here, and it in fact broke a correction to the downside. Depends how you draw it. It could be a rising wedge. It could be a contracting wedge. There was a lot of patterns going on right here, but in any case, it broke to the downside. And from my point of view, it seems to be finishing 5 waves. All right, five potential bearish waves, well, that could indicate a new downside potential for the dollar yen. So I think that if price makes an ABC correction like this, that up in here it could be a rejection zone for more downside. So what I would do is put a fib from here to here, and basically looking for an ABC correction back to these fibs like the 61, 78.6 fib, 50 fib. Looking for some bearish candlestick patterns in here for more downside down to 112, 111.50, 111, etc. And if we zoom out on the daily chart, we can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th candle. So if today's candle is bearish, that's something also what I think could be interesting for swing or long-term traders is if this bearish candle closes bearish with the close near low, that could be a good breakout candle breaking yesterday's low, for instance, right? And indicating that there is weakness in here with all these wicks, and there could be a bigger correction. How far? I would put a fib from this bottom to this top, and basically looking for price to get down ultimately to the 61.8 fib. But I think any of these fibs could provide some bounce, specifically the 38 and 50 back up before it moves down lower. So a bearish candle like that, if it stops like this, for instance, and has a close near the low, maybe a retracement halfway, and the first target could be the 23.6 fib. Then after that, the 38.2 fib. So that could be potential trade setups, not only for Wednesday but Thursday and Friday perhaps as well. So moving on to the euro pound. Euro pound has divergence between these bottoms, and it is moving higher, broke above this resistance trend line, and is making this channel to the upside at this moment, right? And you can see that pretty clearly here, but let me show you on the hourly chart a little bit better perhaps. And so this channel is still looking strong. Let's see if it can bounce again. I would say why not, in a way, in the sense that I think this has still space before it hits maybe the long-term resistance moving average around 89-ish. All right. So from this perspective, I think there could be still some upside, unless, of course, price breaks through this channel, specifically breaks through the channel and long-term moving average and this bottom at around 88.25. Otherwise, I think bullish candlestick reactions in here could still be a good move up to 89 and perhaps further, right, within this channel. So looking for a bounce basically on the euro pound. Aussie, well, Aussie had made a strong upside. It's been a very choppy downside channel, and it broke that channel yesterday. And you can see right here this kind of channel or slash even falling wedge. So that was a bit yucky kind of to trade, a bit difficult to trade. But ultimately, this bullish candle, I think, was the decisive factor in the upside. And well, we saw a continuation of that. And we see doji and a bearish candle after that. So a bit of indecision. But the bullish momentum at this moment is winning. However, price is making a bit of a correction at this moment. So considering the bullish break at this point, probably leaning towards a further kind of correction upwards, right? Like this. Maybe a bit of correction, but then finishing perhaps an ABC zigzag or a 1, 2, 3, etc. Now, considering yesterday's pin bar and these wicks at the bottom, also factors that favor more upside. And we had that upside already. So if today's candle, for instance, is a strong bullish candle like this, right, might see some small retracement tomorrow and a continuation higher. That's something that we can think about. I will be thinking about for the next days. For the upcoming hours, I will probably look at this bull flag and see how deep it corrects. I think maybe putting a fib from here to here, for instance, looking for a turn probably to 50 or 38. A fib could be some ideas to look at 78.40, 78.30, 78.50 for a turn. And let's see if price can break above this resistance trend line, for instance, like this, making a slight falling wedge here. So a breakout could indicate one more push up on the Aussie up to 79. That could complete 5 waves. We could get an ABC and then up, down in here again. There could be a good long, maybe later this week. So that's, I think, could happen on the Aussie. The Kiwi, well, not as interesting from my perspective. It broke yesterday's high. It is also, very close to these support levels, but not really moving up that quickly and having some struggle. It did break above resistance too, like the Aussie. So from that point of view, and was also in certain ways making kind of a falling wedge. So from this perspective, this could be still also ready for upside. So from looking basically at this formation, if it breaks above this trend line, that could indicate also a bigger bullish breakout like the Aussie. If it, however, goes sideways and makes a bear flag like that, it could be worth it to draw a support trend line like this and wait for the bearish breakout, for instance. So that's something, my thoughts on the Kiwi. The dollar CAD is an uptrend, but daily downtrend. So we'll have to see if it breaks this 4-hour support trend line. It could be ready for downside. There are a couple of trend lines we can draw on that one. It's more like a zone, depending on what you draw. One has been broken. Second and third are still active. But I think ultimately, though, price is more at support than anything. So would have to. I'm not a big fan of this dollar CAD probably at this point. But if it breaks this resistance, it could be one more upside. Just generally speaking, it looks very choppy. But if we draw these trend lines, we can keep an eye on the potential for up or down. But looks a bit messy at this moment from my perspective. So not sure if I'm going to trade this one. But these, if you're interested in this currency pair, these are the trend lines that I will keep an eye on. And the trend is up as long as price stays above this bottom as well. So that's about 124.25. Gold is looking like a bear flag at the moment. You can see that right here. So could continue lower if it breaks that flag, that is. But the opposite also could happen, and because we had already a strong downside, this basically might correct in the through. If it does correct in the 3-wave up, that could confirm more downside later on. So we'll have to see how price responds to this potential flag, this bear flag potential right here. If it breaks above this flag, it could be making a bigger correction upwards. If it breaks below it, then it could be a continuation. Alright, I'm not probably going to spend too much time on this euro-yen, but it might be making basically a correction here like this, right? Break, pullback, and it could fall down to this target. So we could put a new trend line on like this, and if it breaks, there could be one more bigger ABC correction like this to the downside, perhaps even like this in 3 waves down, completing a 5-wave basically formation like this at the 2.7 or the minus 61.8 target, which could again be potential bouncing spots. So that could be a potential there for downside. The upside is also interesting to keep an eye on this trend line, by the way, right? Because if it breaks with that, the moving averages are already bullishly aligned, so that could be a good bullish breakout. Pound yen, looking for price to bounce off the 38.2 fib. Check out our blog for our Tuesday article, yesterday, Tuesday that is, for more details why I'm looking for a bounce at the 38.2 fib. I won't elaborate more on that in this video. The Euro New Zealand. Alright, Euro New Zealand. Let's define this range. Basically, price has been going sideways, of course, and there are some trend lines we can draw on this Euro New Zealand like this. So this looks like a potential break, but will it be able to move away from these moving averages? I think that's the main question. And it could be difficult for price to do that because the moving averages are so flat and on top of each other. That could be a real struggle for price to do that. If it does do that, right, it could go to the minus 61.8 target at 166. 165 is a stopping spot as well. So basically, for me to trade this, I would probably need to see price move away from these moving averages a bit more, one more time. Make then a bull flag and let these moving averages catch up, and then let it bounce the next time. So I would probably be looking for a break, pullback, continue before trading it, before trading this breakout to the upside. All right. So a bit more cautious because of the moving averages. In fact, the euro odd is well, more or less this. I mean, definitely in a correction, but what type of correction? It's even difficult to define because it's so choppy and so out of the box that we can't really box it. But if we do our best, then we can, of course, at least see this resistance, and we might see this support. But the price action before that was quite messy and random, so not difficult to give a pattern to it. For the moment, these trend lines I think are most important, but not really looking for any particular setup on this euro odd as yet. Pound odd, I think, despite the fact that pound dollar might be bouncing to the upside, as mentioned, the pound odd is looking bearish on this 1-hour chart, and there is some space left before it might hit bigger support around 167.50. All right, 168. So there could be some space left before that big support level is reached. So from this perspective, I would probably, however, need to see price. Let's see. I would need to see it make a bit of correction as it's doing, but then turn back down again. So I would wait for some bigger flag to occur. That might happen by the end of the day, Wednesday or Thursday morning. And if it does that and stays below 170, 169.60, then the breakout to the downside could be interesting on the pound odd. So let's see how the pound behaves today. Pound New Zealand, we didn't talk about this one for a while, but basically, again, in corrections, a lot of corrections, folks, this week. So, if you're struggling to find some trades, that's okay. From my perspective, it makes sense. I mean, I didn't take many trades myself either because of this, corrective patterns. But I think maybe today and tomorrow the market could loosen up a bit. But Friday, by the way, be aware that it is non-farm payroll, and that of course can slow things down again until the event itself, which can speed it up again. So on the dollar and probably the entire Forex market. So that's something to be cautious of. That's on Friday. With regard to the pound New Zealand 4-hour chart, though, I think that this triangle is the most important. And well, if it would follow the pound odd, it might break to the downside. but the moving averages are aligned to the upside, so it looks a bit more bullish. On New Zealand, by the way, is moving slightly to the upside, as you can see, but does have resistance nearby. So let's see how it responds to that trend line. At the moment, that could be the most important factor. And if it were to fail, then this could be an indication of that breakout to the downside. All right. So that's about it. Check out elitecurrency.com for more free material, our blog, of course, with analytics and some educational materials, but also ecs.start, which you can find on the main page. Thanks for joining and good trading. Cheers.